Welcome to Special Investigations. Today's episode travels to Mars, hosted by Jaime Maussan.
In this episode, we will investigate an extraordinary story, the supposed travels of Andrew Basiago to Mars. Andrew, a journalist and lawyer, has long claimed that he was part of a highly classified teletransportation project, which has earned him the title of a whistleblower.
As a 6-year-old, I first teleported with my late father, Raymond F. Basiago, who was one of the project principal.
According to Basiago, his father worked as an undercover CIA scientist, undertaking missions across time and space, a program of chrononauts or time travelers, and working for the Secretary of Defense. We traveled to Portland, Oregon, to meet with Andrew Basiago and investigate his claims about teletransportation and his supposed travels to Mars.
Nicola Tesla found a way to create an apparatus that draws radiant energy from the time-space continuum. Radiant energy is a form of energy that he discovered. It is latent and pervasive in the universe. My father and I first jumped through a Tesla teleporter in Building 68 at the old Curtiss-Wright Aeronautical Company facility in Woodridge, New Jersey, sometime between September of 1967 and September of 1968. The teleport would open up a tunnel in the time-space continuum. You would find yourself moving through it, and when the tunnel closed, you would find yourself elsewhere on the surface of the planet. Now, why do we know that? Because when the tunnel closed and we arrived via teleportation in the state capitol complex in Santa Fe, New Mexico, my father then got a state car from one of the public buildings there, and we drove over to the Los Alamos National Laboratories for a meeting with Dr. Harold M. Agnew when he was the director of the W Division, the Weapons Division at the Los Alamos Labs. So I was brought into that classified research and development program as a young child for a number of reasons. One, they wanted to test the mental and physical effects of teleportation on children. Two, they had these electro-optical devices called chronovisors that prompted moving holographic images of past and future events. Those holograms tended to fail if an adult was standing within them when the hologram was propagated. So the third reason is that they knew from their psychological studies that children have very keen perceptions. Their perceptions are not influenced in the way that adults' perceptions are. So a decision was made to develop a cadre of chrononauts from among the gifted and talented school children of that era. Because they were physically small, they could be trained to see things within the hologram, that is to say in the past and future. The fourth reason, and that which we were most excited about, is they told us that in adulthood we would be admitted to the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, and that would be used as a pretext to involve us in future time travel activities, that we were being trained to become America's first cadre of chrononauts in a secret program that would run parallel to the U.S. space program. The hidden history of U.S. time travel is that teleportation was weaponized when Nicola Tesla died in January of 1943. His papers were seized by 2 War Department officials, and those documents were forwarded to the most common sense group of people who should receive that information, the world's leading physicists who were then gathering to build the atomic bomb in Los Alamos, New Mexico.
According to Alfred Webre, author of the book Exopolitics, Nikola Tesla's research was the scientific origin of space and time travel.
At that time, as you know, he was working with the financier J.P. Morgan, and he had just invented alternating current. So in 1902 then, Tesla went out to Pikes Peak, Colorado. There are photographs of it. He built a Tesla machine, and he communicated interactively with the intelligence that sent the signal that the Lowell Observatory picked up in 1901. And Lord Kelvin, who invented the Kelvin scale, eminent scientist of that day, came to New York and at a big banquet defended Tesla and said, Nikola Tesla is the first to have achieved interactive communication via technical means with an extraterrestrial civilization that's on the planet Mars from the top of Pikes Peak, which incidentally The Hopi Indians consider the top of Pikes Peak, Colorado, to be, quote, the center of the world.
Andrew Basiago not only traveled on Tesla's teleporter as a child, but years later he did it again, this time under CIA's career officer Courtney Hunt's supervision, who took Basiago to a place much farther away.
And beginning in the very beginning of the summer there of 1981, Courtney Hunt was asking me a question I really didn't want to be asked. And that question was, so tell me, do you want to go to Mars? I had had some unpleasant experiences in Project Pegasus. I did not go on to a career with the United States Navy, did not attend Annapolis. And then in the late June of 1981, I said, why should I go? Why are you asking me to go to Mars? And he said, because the survival of human life depends on it. Now, we don't know what he meant by that. He may have meant that young people such as yourself have to be willing to go off planet, just like the astronauts do. He gave me several hours of training at Cal State Northridge in sort of an abandoned chemistry lab there, in breathing and speaking through a crystal helmet, and utilizing a respiration device that was attached to the helmet. In July 1981, I met him at the corner of Mason and Devonshire in Chatsworth, California. In his car, we drove to the office building that is at the corner of North Sepulveda Boulevard and Imperial Boulevard, immediately southeast of the grounds of the Los Angeles International Airport. The address of that building is 999 North Sepulveda Boulevard. During my investigation, I identified the fact that the company that operated that building in 1981 was Hughes Aircraft. So I put my gear on, and Courtney Hunt was speaking to me through the telecom and saying, are you ready, and so forth. And I finally grew impatient because I wanted to go to Mars. I don't like waiting for things. And I borrowed a line, I believe, that was from Alan Shepard during the space program, which was light this candle. Maybe it was John Glenn. And then about 10 minutes into the 20-minute journey to Mars, the entire form of this box-like elevator began to morph and crumple and reposition itself into a cylinder. And there was fairly intense pressure when it crumpled into a cylinder. And then it began correcting itself, and then it just completely rectified its original shape. And then about 10 minutes later, as Courtney had described, the door opened, and I walked out into what looked like, if you can imagine sort of the basement of a modern sports arena. There was sort of a big cave in which I could see these modern tension struts, a sort of infrastructure that had been placed inside. And as Courtney Hunt had described, there was a staircase. I walked up. I could see the rust-red terrain of Mars. I could see that Mars has a pale blue sky. And I turned and I saw a small human being from our civilization on Earth ran up to me, two men and a woman. And they were clearly human beings from Earth. They weren't Martians. They looked normal. They were speaking English. I could see that, or sense rather, that Mars smelt of gunpowder, which must have been some sulfur, strong gunpowder odor. And I found that I could breathe. I couldn't breathe as easily as one would breathe on Earth, so I was breathing sort of with great difficulty, or some difficulty. And I just stood there for about 90 minutes, and I just kept on asking him, can I go home now? I just kind of stood there. And after about 90 minutes, he said, yeah, you can go home. And I remember sitting in the corner of that jump room for about 45 minutes, just literally praying that the door would close and I'd have an opportunity to go back to my home planet. I really did not enjoy being that far from Earth. I'm not lying. I can give you the names of the locations we were taken to where events, time travel activities occurred. I can give you the name and describe the structure and function of the devices. I'm giving the name not only of project insiders whose names will show up in government records as a result of entering certain facilities or having security badges and so forth. I can give you the names of their friends in places like New Mexico and New Jersey who were aware of what was going on.
This is 999 North Sepulveda Boulevard. As pointed out by Andrew Basiago, it is an 8-story building located a few meters from the airport, a location that could potentially be involved in secrecy and adjacent to the so-called Imperial Highway in the city of Los Angeles. According to his account, he was transported from here directly to Mars. This building, which is 30 or 40 years old and recently renovated, remains shrouded in mystery since its alleged connection to government experiments remains unconfirmed. In addition to Andrew's testimony, Alfred Weber claims that Earth and Mars have been directly interrelated for thousands of years.
Mars and Earth were an interplanetary society prior to 9500 BC, when a fragment of the Vela supernova came into the solar system and did great damage to the Martian surface ecology, took away a great deal of its atmosphere, denuded its surface, and forced the Martian civilization underground, and left a very fragile ecology on the surface. That same fragment of the Vela supernova destroyed the great maritime civilization of Earth at that time that Plato called Atlantis. So this represents now the fact that we've developed teleportation, the reintegration of a human race that is on Earth and is on Mars.
Multiple scientific pieces of evidence lead us to consider the intriguing possibility of life on Mars. The compelling evidence gathered by space probes not only fuels our curiosity about life on Mars, but also lends credibility to Andrew Basiago's claims. There is a single piece of evidence that could significantly bolster the credibility of his account, potentially reshaping our understanding of Mars. The discovery of a humanoid figure in the image captured by the Rover Spirit near Gusev Crater between November 6 and 9, 2007, is a momentous event in the exploration of Mars.
That photograph has been the subject of widespread global scrutiny because it contains an anomaly that apparently looks like the figure of a human female in a blue dress on the far leftward or southward edge of the home plate plateau. There's no doubt in my mind that NASA image PIA 10214 is the most important photograph ever taken by human beings from Earth, because in it we see the first evidence of a humanoid being living in its natural state of existence on another celestial body. So I spent about 1,000 hours in 2008 scrutinizing every last corner of this image, and I found overwhelming evidence not only of ancient artifacts in this image that was part of a composite statue in which a male was either being embraced by her or just adjacent to her, in the way, for example, you would make a statue of a queen and king, that shows the hairy head of a snake or a reptile, that is to say, something that would resemble the Quetzalcoatl serpent god of the Aztecan civilization in Mexico. This hirsute reptile is biting the neck of a bearded male human who's looking forward. We can see his eyebrow, his eye, his nose, and his beard, and his hair. And virtually everybody was missing the fact that these are smaller elements of a much larger statue that includes this macabre theme. And that's so strange that I was alarmed by the fact that it existed at all in the cosmos, but in fact on Mars, the planet that every 2 years comes closest to Earth.
In 2001, another probe photographed enormous structures that appeared to be transparent tunnels. According to some estimates, the tunnels reach a height that exceeds 1,000 feet and stretch for several miles. Tunnels that appear to be artificial, apparently transparent, and made of glass, that in theory could be the basis of a Martian civilization living below the surface.
I think it might be a base. What we can say is that this is a detail, it's an enlargement of a segment of one of the glass tubes that have been found in various places on Mars. They seem to be artificial structures that have been built around this ribbing, and then some kind of glassine substance has been extruded across the reinforcements. So we have something on Mars here that would resemble, let's say, a passageway in a modern airport on Earth, where it's made primarily of glass, but it has some support columns, or an observation area for the Martian humanoids. But we know they're artificial, we know they have support structures, we know that there's some kind of glassine material between those support structures. They're not just empty ribs. And behind them are either statues or intelligent life forms that are looking out through the glassine surface of the tubes.
Alfred Weber believes whistleblowers risking their lives to share proof of military secret technology should be commanded. They truly believe that the information must be shared with the rest of the world.
A whistleblower, according to the law of evidence, would be
an eyewitness who's had personal knowledge of technical developments, of state secrets or scientific secrets, and they come out and they believe this is knowledge that should be known because it affects the public interest. And with regard to the use of teleportation to establish a U.S. secret base on Mars, and some of the principal whistleblowers that have come forward include Michael Ralph, a U.S. Armed Serviceman, as part of the permanent security staff at the U.S. secret base on Mars. Arthur Neumann, former U.S. Defense Department scientist who was teleported to the secret base on Mars for project meetings there, and Andrew Basiago, who wrote the seminal paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars.
Another witness who suggests that there are colonies of human beings on Mars is Laura Eisenhower, granddaughter of a former president of the United States.
I mean, it is possible to go to Mars, but we're not led to believe that. I mean, we might have rovers and this and that, but nobody knows that there's been a human presence on Mars for maybe 40, 50, God knows how many years. And so I overheard conversations about how they were going to replenish Mars and make it into a sustainable planet. You know, introduce algae and all these different things so that life could start to really come in. So I was always overhearing this on the phone. They basically targeted me because they wanted to remove me from my mission and use me for their purposes to help them start a new colony. I felt like my life was in danger just trying to break free of this whole recruitment. And then I realized how serious this was. All I could do was break free of it and then research what these people were about and what is going on there.
Do you believe what's happening on Mars is true?
I do, and Andy is such a credible person, and so is Alfred, and I've known them now for, I think, a year or two on this sort of level of discussion, and I don't doubt for a moment anything that Andy says, and I know that he's walked on the surface of Mars. And Alternative 1, 2, and 3 that was established during the Eisenhower administration, I believe, Alternative 3 was all about building off-planet colonies and underground bases. So they had those plans, and they chose to invest a lot of money into that. And what happened is, the more the president got upset about the secrecy, the more they silenced him and ended up taking over. And that's what we call the shadow government that's really running the show. He lost his ability to really do anything until the end, until he could have his farewell address to warn us years later that all these trillions of dollars would be invested into these colonies, more than being invested into this planet with all the needs that we have here. Then it's obvious that it's a part of something that does not have our best interests in mind, that is manipulating people to go along with something that goes against their free will. And if we don't speak about it, they're able to get away with it, because if we're not aware, then we're being led astray. And if Eisenhower didn't speak up and give a warning, if Kennedy didn't clue into it, and if others hadn't, blown the whistle on certain projects, there's no human that would even know this stuff is going on, because most people think this is crazy. They have no idea what is going on.
The invention of technologies like teleportation that will make Earth a paradise on Earth, that will eliminate all the pollution from fossil fuels. So if we move to a teleportation-based society, we get rid of automobiles, buses, trains, planes, and we can go, say, to the New York teleport and get off at the other end at the Paris teleport in seconds. We are really living in a paradise planet. As Andy Basiago revealed, he's teleport, part of his job, and so that's the positive timeline.
Do you face any danger when talking about this?
Yes, and I've realized since the inception of my investigation that I might be assassinated for carrying out my investigation of such a sensitive topic. And that is to inform the people of the world that for 40 years we've had available to us this revolutionary form of transportation to achieve sustainability in the 21st century. During my first fact-finding trip to New Mexico in June of 2003, I met with a representative of the Executive Office of the President. He essentially warned me that if I didn't cease and desist, that the White House wanted me to know that they couldn't guarantee my survival. Naturally and understandably, they should potentially doubt what I'm saying because admittedly it's far-fetched. But I would remind people that what falls between what the public understands to have been achieved and what the governments allow people to know falls everything that's covered under the umbrella of official state secrecy. But that's a risk that I'm willing to take. I'm pursuing a cause that I'm not willing to postpone, and I believe that I will prevail at. But at this point, I'm resolved that I'm not going to back down, and I'm going to persist in bringing this information to the people of my own country and to the people of the world.
You see, the early pioneers were able to live off the land. They could plant crops, they could shoot game, they could live off the land. They didn't have to bring water, they didn't have to bring air, they didn't have to bring soil with them when they came to a new world. On Mars, we do. So what we have to do is several things. First of all, once we're on Mars, we have to have energy. We'll get that from sunlight. We have to create genetically modified algae to thrive in a carbon dioxide cold environment. So we have to create a self-sustaining colony. One way to do this is to have satellites go around Mars to heat up the ice caps. The ice caps have plenty of water. Mars once had oceans, rivers, lakes, almost a tropical environment practically. So genetically engineer plants, algae to thrive in this environment of the planet Mars, to create crops so we can eat. By beaming energy from the sun onto the ice caps, we can melt the ice caps and water will flow on Mars. In fact, Mars was tropical before the Earth. Mars cooled off before the Earth. Some people think that maybe DNA got off the ground on Mars first.
Would that be possible? Are we going to do it? Do you envision Mars as a future home away from home?
It's definitely possible. However, cost again is going to be a problem. One of the things about cost is that the asteroids may be the stepping stone for colonization, because asteroids have platinum and rare earth elements in large quantities. You see, when the Earth was molten billions of years ago, many of the rare elements sunk to the center of the Earth. So the crust does not have too much of these very valuable elements. Asteroids never had that. Therefore, asteroids have more platinum, more rare earth elements that are commercially valuable. One large asteroid can pay for the entire space program.
On March 27, 1989, a Soviet spacecraft lost contact with Earth while orbiting Mars moon Phobos. The Soviet scientists decided to land a probe on the Martian moon after mapping the Sidonia region of the planet Mars. The spacecraft was supposed to perform various analyses of the strange satellite. However, only a few days after entering Mars orbit, the spacecraft abruptly disappeared, leaving the mission unfinished and the mystery unsolved. The event occurred shortly after it captured a photograph of an enormous object that Russian scientists believed to measure between 15 to 20 miles in length. Before losing contact, the probe had taken photographs of a gigantic shadow projected against the surface. The Soviets were shocked. Something very mysterious had happened to the probe, 1 million miles from Earth, leaving behind a puzzle that still baffles scientists and space enthusiasts alike. The probe stopped communicating and was considered lost, never to be heard from again. This disastrous event marked a significant loss on the Soviet exploration of the Red Planet. During a separate mission to Mars on September 1st, 1988, the twin spacecraft Phobos 1 was lost due to a failure in its transmissions. Scientists believed that the spacecraft veered off course and was lost in space. The probe's last photograph before it disappeared showed an object approximately 20 miles in length, floating in space near Mars' moon. Despite its technical capabilities, scientists made a valiant effort to redirect the cameras toward the enigmatic object. However, their efforts were in vain as the spacecraft vanished mysteriously, leaving the new images untransmitted. In 1991, Russian cosmonaut Marina Popovich, the first to expose evidence of the failed attempt, unveiled secret images related to the space probe's disappearance. 2 years after the incident, we were able to interview Popovich in Las Vegas, Nevada.
As
the probe neared Mars, its camera captured this image of Phobos, the Martian satellite, revealing a peculiar elongated object. The photograph shows a mysteriously large shadow on Mars's surface. 3 days after this image was received, the signal from the probe was lost. Scientists blamed the failure on human mistake, perhaps a bad command, static electricity, or mechanical malfunction. However, other experts believe that the image captured is perhaps of a spacecraft from another civilization. The size of the cigar-shaped object is approximately 20 miles long.
There are several theories about this strange occurrence. Although they had no explanation for the disappearance of the probe, Soviet scientists refused to consider the possibility that it had been abducted or destroyed by alien intelligence. This event, which occurred during a mission to gather data about Mars and its moons, raised significant questions and concerns among the scientific community. A project that should have produced a wealth of data, a highly anticipated and expensive program designed to uncover the mysteries of Mars and its moons. Especially from Phobos, the only natural satellite in the solar system that does not appear to be synchronized, circling Mars a day shorter and making its orbit in 7 hours. Disappearing twice from the sun in one Martian day, a one-of-a-kind moon constantly accelerating and slowing down, a unique feature in the solar system. Phobos is 22 miles long and performs a retrograde orbit, opposite to most satellites in the solar system, circling in the same direction as their host planet. The Martian moon follows an orbit that is anything but regular. It moves closer and further away from Mars in a manner that defies the norms of celestial motion. This irregularity was researched by respected Soviet astrophysicist Isis Kluski, who speculated about the possibility of an artificial origin. In 1959, Kluski concluded that Phobos, and most probably Deimos, the second Martian moon, were artificial satellites. He proposed that they were put into orbit by an unknown race that inhabited Mars, further fueling the mystery. Another of the mysteries of Phobos is a 300-foot monolith captured in images from the Mars Global Surveyor in 1998. NASA's official explanation was that it was simply a large rock, although they could not explain why this defined structure was standing upright in a desert area of the Martian moon with no other boulders nearby. The images have given rise to the possibility that it is a large construction, perhaps erected by an ancient civilization. What makes this discovery more enigmatic is that a similar monolith exists on the surface of Mars. The image of the red planet, released in 2009, shows a very similar object in a desertic area of Mars. NASA reiterated that the high-altitude camera installed on the spacecraft corresponds to a rock formation and that the poor resolution leads to misinterpretation. What makes these images truly extraordinary is the discovery of two monoliths, strikingly similar in shape and form in such close proximity, one on the surface of Mars and the other on its moon. Both structures stand hundreds of feet high, a feature not found on any other planet in our solar system, adding to the uniqueness of this discovery. Intriguingly, both monoliths are situated in flat, desert-like areas and untouched by erosion. This unique location adds to the mystery, sparking curiosity about their origins. Another theory suggests that the monoliths are simply large rocks protruding through the surface after an impact billions of years ago, a case similar to the creation of the Earth's moon. It is also possible that the collision generated a large fragment that gave rise to the formation of Phobos and Deimos. This theory, if proven, could provide insights into the formation of moons in general. Future expeditions to analyze the composition of Phobos and its monolith could suggest that it might be a hollow moon. In 2015, NASA suggested that Phobos is slowly disintegrating, with grooves on its surface showing early signs. The first detailed images of Mars were taken by different space missions starting with NASA's Viking probes, the former Soviet Union, the European Space Agency, the Indian Space Agency, and even Google Mars. For decades, strange structures have been captured on the surface of Mars from orbiting spacecraft, but none have caused as much controversy as the face of Sidonia, a distinctive feature on the surface of Mars. The figure resembles that of a human face and measures approximately 2 miles in length by a mile wide. It was first photographed on July 25, 1976, by NASA's Viking space probe. This formation quickly became the subject of discussion about the possible intelligent presence on Mars. It was even interpreted by enthusiasts as a message left by ancient civilizations that inhabited the Red Planet. In addition to the face, located in a mountainous area known as Sidonia, the Viking probes captured images of several pyramidal shapes that confirmed to some that an intelligent civilization existed on Mars, perhaps thousands of years ago. In June 2011, researcher David Martinez, while experimenting with the newly developed Google Mars program, with access to detailed maps of the surface of the Red Planet, found by chance a surprising structure. According to Martinez, the structure's shape and form appear to be artificial, and it is located within a flat region of Mars without mountains nearby. The alleged building seems to be made up of cylindrical bodies, each measuring approximately 700 by 150 feet. Martinez estimates that due to its symmetry, the building could be an artificial structure that resembles that of a military base. Other researchers have wondered for decades if an ancient civilization or groups of survivors of a great Martian Holocaust still exist. These questions are revisited again and again after each space mission with improved technology lands on the Red Planet. On August 9, 2012, NASA's Rover Opportunity further aided this controversy when it captured images from a distance of what appears to be a large dome. When zooming into the digital picture, it is clear to observers that the structure does not appear to be part of the Martian landscape. On a separate mission, the Curiosity rover captured an image that sparked controversy as it departed the Gale crater. The photo appears to show a half-buried pyramid, of which we can only see the tip. This structure, which many believe is similar to those found on Earth, adds to the ongoing controversy surrounding Martian anomalies. On July 15, 2015, Rover Opportunity captured the image of a stone structure next to the Spirit of St. Louis crater. As in previous cases, it was decided by NASA not to change the predetermined route and take a closer look at the structure. In other images sent by the European probe Mars Express in August 2004, remains can be seen of what appeared to be a large city in ruins. The images taken from space highlight structures interpreted as terraces of a large complex, possibly eroded by time. After 2 decades, the European Space Agency has yet to comment on the visuals captured by its space probe. Opportunity and Spirit, the first 2 rovers sent to the Red Planet, are perhaps the greatest mystery of Mars. Both were programmed to last for a mission no longer than a few months, yet the Opportunity rover continues to operate to this day, almost 2 decades after it reached Mars, while the Spirit operated uneventfully until 2010. The calculation made by NASA was based on the assumption that the solar panels mounted on the rovers would eventually be covered by thick Martian dust. Still, for some strange reason, their functionality remained intact, as their solar panels appeared to be clean overnight. The controversy about the rover's unexpected longevity went even further. After the Curiosity rover sent NASA a controversial image of the Martian terrain, the photo appears to highlight the shadow of a human being leaning over the rover. NASA dismissed the finding as a simple trick of light. At first glance, the image could be interpreted as an astronaut using breathing equipment on his back, with a clear view of his legs and helmet, cleaning the rover's solar panels. During the broadcast of a national radio program in the United States, the show host received a live call from someone who identified himself as part of NASA's Rover program. The caller claimed to have seen two people wearing spacesuits walking on the surface of Mars. The caller claimed that they approached a rover for what appeared to be a maintenance session. Almost 2 years earlier, in January 2007, the Spirit rover sent back a strange image from the Gusev crater. The digital capture shows what appears to be a small room made of rocks, a formation similar to those found on our planet. Expert researchers have meticulously analyzed the construction, which they believe necessitates placing stones one by one. Their expertise leads them to conclude that regardless of Martian geology, it would be challenging for such a structure to form naturally or through erosion. In several other images shot by different rovers, flying objects were captured over the red planet sky. For instance, the image captured in July 2014. Rover Opportunity recorded a traditional saucer-shaped object flying on the horizon. Other types of alleged spacecraft, including cylindrical objects, have also been captured flying over the planet, sparking intrigue. A video sequence captured by the Curiosity rover on April 28, 2014, shows a significant circular shadow accompanying the Ingenuity helicopter as it flies over the surface of the red planet. In the video recording, the helicopter's shadow can be seen flying over the Martian surface, accompanied by another that follows it for most of its flight. NASA scientists lost contact with the small helicopter after the event, before the signal with Earth was fully reinstated. On May 7, 2022, the Curiosity rover captured what appears to be a door inside the Gale crater. However, NASA clarified that the door's scale is only 1 foot tall and blamed the confusion on an optical illusion. Researchers have compared the images on Mars with those of Egyptian pyramids on Earth, noticing their similarities. Perhaps this finding is another possible proof that an ancient civilization existed long ago on the red planet. Our recorded observations of Mars, dating back more than 4,000 years, were led by our curiosity about the cosmos. For the past 50 years, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the United States Space Agency, has sent a fleet of robotic orbiters, landers, and rovers, maintaining a continuous flow of scientific information and discoveries about Mars. The first time NASA tried to reach the red planet was in 1976, when a group of scientists headed by engineer Gilbert Levin allegedly found life on Mars. The controversial discovery was dismissed by the mission directors, who wanted to avoid accepting the scientific data and never made it official. The Viking 1 and 2 probes reached their destination in July and September 1976. They were equipped to carry out specific tests, including an experiment to analyze the atmospheric gases of Mars and its biological origin through a series of 4 biochemical experiments. In 2016, Gilbert Levin published an article in the Astrobiology Journal defending his findings and those of the Viking probe's tests. Levin proposed that microorganisms capable of surviving in the harsh conditions of the Martian environment exist on the surface of the red planet. If confirmed, this finding would revolutionize our understanding of Mars and the potential for life beyond Earth. Levin wrote that Mars is a world with life, an idea shared today only by a small group of scientists. A proposed theory suggests that an organism that could be found on the red planet is quite common on Earth and capable of withstanding the most challenging environment. These includes extreme heat, cold, acidic, or alkaline conditions, with or without oxygen, and in light or in absolute darkness. They are better known as extremophiles. These tardigrades are invertebrates and microscopic. On Earth, they are commonly known as water bears. They are found in the sea, freshwater, and land. In 2007, the European Space Agency kept them in outer space for 12 days, and they survived without deficiencies. They can withstand temperatures of more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit, or up to 500 degrees below zero. They can also survive 120 years in a dormant state. They are practically eternal and possibly the first interplanetary colonizers. Since the beginning of the new millennium, the European Space Agency has been the most interested in confirming the presence of methane on Mars. The gas is the product of bacteria's activity on Earth and is produced by living organisms. While NASA missions are being prepared, the Russian and European space agencies have already sent gas orbiters to Mars to collect information for a possible manned mission. Despite the setbacks of the Beagle mission in 2003 and the Schiaparelli mission in 2016, European scientists have remained steadfast in their commitment to understanding Mars. This planet has become the final resting place of numerous missions, but the scientists' determination remains unshaken. NASA is already preparing an ambitious new rover mission designed to collect Martian soil samples and send them back to Earth. According to the plans, the United States Space Agency has already selected 3 possible sites to search for life on Mars, each with the potential for groundbreaking discoveries. Researchers selected the Jezero crater, an ancient lake with sediments and fossil veins, as the first option. The second site selected is the desertous central region, one of the oldest on Mars, covered with clay minerals, highlighting the ancient presence of water at high temperatures. The third would be the Columbia Hills area of Gusev Crater, explored by the Rover Spirit a decade ago. The Rover Spirit's newly discovered presence of silica could be evidence that hydrothermal vents existed on the Martian surface. However, this mission will not be easy. It will consist of 3 independent missions running simultaneously, each with its challenges and risks. The planned project carries a high degree of error, potentially causing the acquired samples to be lost before reaching Earth. In the first phase, the twin brother of the rover Curiosity will drill the Martian soil to collect samples. The second stage involves gathering and launching the soil into Mars orbit using a rocket. The final stage consists of capturing the rocket in orbit and transporting the contents 140 million miles back to Earth using a specially designed orbiter. The samples will arrive on Earth and be analyzed by NASA scientists before the end of the next decade. This analysis could confirm or reject the possibility of microscopic life, marking a significant milestone in our understanding of the universe and a possible human mission to the Red Planet. For over 50 years, the space race was solely in the hands of various government space agencies. Today, visionary leaders heading private companies are perfecting technology to launch missions with the goal of interplanetary colonization. These same companies offer new and innovative approaches that include the possibility of manned missions that will reshape the future of space exploration. Mars is undoubtedly our next destination in conquering space, and private interest in the cosmos will play a crucial role in this endeavor.